I remember that evening so clearly, it still feels like a bruise pressed against my chest. I was sitting at the kitchen island in our Buckhead condo, pretending to read a design magazine, even though my mind was everywhere else. My husband, Marcellus, was standing by the stove with an apron on, the navy blue one I bought him for our anniversary, stirring a pot of slow-cooked oxtails like he was auditioning for some cooking show. The whole place smelled warm and sweet, like home, the kind of home I thought we had. He was humming an old R&B song under his breath, and from behind, he looked like the picture-perfect man, hardworking, handsome, thoughtful. The kind of man every woman brags about. At least, that's who I believed he was. His phone was lying on the marble countertop right in front of me, black screen quiet and still. And then out of nowhere it lit up with that cold blue notification glow. No sound, just the flash. My eyes went straight to it, instinctively, like my body already knew what my mind refused to accept. I read the message once. Then again. Boss, I miss you. Just 4 words. 4 stupid little words that knocked the air right out of my lungs. And the crazy part? My heart didn't even drop. Because it had already shattered a week earlier when I found that bank statement he didn't think I'd ever read. The one that told me everything I needed to know. So this message wasn't a surprise, it was confirmation. I recognized her name immediately, the intern. The one he once mentioned in passing, talking about how smart she was, how respectful she was, how quick to learn she was. I had smiled then, thinking he was just proud of his team. Turns out, the only thing she was quick to learn was how to text my husband like he belonged to her. While he stood there humming, chopping vegetables like nothing in the world could be wrong, something in me went cold. Not angry, just calm. Dead calm. The kind of calm that happens right before a storm hits and tears everything apart. I picked up his phone quietly. The passcode? Our wedding anniversary. Cute, right? I typed it in, and the screen unlocked like it was nothing. The message was right there at the top, bold and bright. I didn't open it. I didn't need to. Instead, with hands so steady it scared even me, I typed a reply. Come over. My wife isn't home today. Send. Double blue check. A perfect little trap, set in under 5 seconds. I took a screenshot, sent it to my own phone, deleted the evidence, and placed his phone back at the exact same angle. When I tell you my fingers were trembling, they weren't trembling from fear. They were trembling because I had never felt that level of betrayal and fury living in the same breath. I glanced up at Marcellus. Still humming. Still smiling. Still cooking the dinner he swore was a privilege to make for me. And in that moment, the man I loved for 6 years became a stranger standing in my kitchen. I smoothed my hair, kept my face neutral, and forced myself to sit still, even though inside, I was already planning the rest of the night like a movie scene. She'd be here within 30 to 40 minutes, depending on traffic. And I wasn't going to waste a single second of that window. Not after everything he'd done. This wasn't going to be an argument. Not a screaming match. Not a broken dishes, throw his clothes out the window kind of night. No. If he wanted to play pretend and live a double life, then I was going to direct the closing act. And let me tell you, I was ready. I walked back to the dining table like nothing had happened, even though inside I felt like the whole world had tilted on its side. Marcellus brought over the serving dish, steaming, rich oxtails he'd slow-cooked all afternoon, and set it right in the center of the table like he was presenting a masterpiece. The smell hit me first, thyme, allspice, beef falling off the bone, the kind of smell that used to make me melt for him. But now, it felt like a cruel joke. He plated my food with so much care you'd think we were filming a commercial. Rice first, perfectly fluffed. Then he picked out the biggest, juiciest piece of meat and placed it gently on top, smiling like he'd just won Husband of the Year. "Baby," he said, using that warm, soft voice that once made me weak. "Eat it while it's hot. I cooked the meat all the way down for you. Look, just touches the bone and falls right off." I nodded, pretending to smile back. And God, I swear that smile probably looked like a stretch of cracked plastic. I lifted the fork to my mouth and took a bite. It was good. Not just good, it was amazing. Tender, buttery, seasoned perfectly. exactly how I like it. But the moment I swallowed it, a bitter taste coated my throat. Not from the food, from him. From the lie of this entire moment. It felt like chewing ashes. I sipped water to wash it down, even though nothing could make that bitterness go away. Across from me, Marcellus ate with the appetite of a man who didn't have a single secret in his life. Offering sides, telling jokes from work, breaking into stories about a new project the CEO praised him for. Laughing like he didn't have a woman texting him, "I miss you," an hour ago. Not once did he mention her name. Not one slip. Not even a flinch. It was like watching an actor playing a role he'd learned by heart, the loyal husband, the responsible man, the attentive partner. And I kept thinking, how many times had he done this? How many nights had he come home to me after seeing her? How many lies had he tucked neatly into the folds of our daily routine? I wanted to scream, but I kept chewing, because my trap was already set, and all I needed to do was keep him blind until the doorbell rang. I peeked at the clock on the wall. Almost 7 p.m. She'd be here soon. My heart started pounding again, not in panic, not in fear, but in cold anticipation. Half of me still hoped she wouldn't show up. That maybe she'd gotten busy. That maybe she'd gotten scared. That maybe she had the sense not to walk into another woman's home. But the other half of me, the colder part, it wanted that doorbell to ring right now. I wanted every ugly truth to step into my house, wearing its tight little dress and carrying that cupcake box like a peace offering to my husband. "Are you okay, babe?" Marcellus asked suddenly. I almost laughed. The nerve. "I'm just tired," I said. "Long day." And just like that, he switched into concerned husband mode. He stood up, touched my forehead, asked if I felt warm, asked if I needed to lie down, asked if I wanted fruit for dessert. That man could have won an Oscar with the performance he was giving me. While he washed the dishes, sleeves rolled up, humming again, I sat on the sofa with the TV remote in my hand, staring at the front door like it owed me answers. Every second felt like someone slowly dragging a knife along my spine. Not enough to cut, but enough to make me feel every inch of pain. I wasn't thinking about divorce. Or revenge. Not yet. All I wanted was the truth. Raw, ugly, undeniable truth. Because when someone lies to you every day, you stop trusting words. You stop trusting apologies. You stop trusting promises. You only trust what happens right in front of your eyes. At exactly 8 p.m., Marcellus finally finished wiping the counters and came to the living room. He sat down across from me, scrolling through his phone like he had nothing to worry about, like the world calm. If he only knew. And then, ding-dong, a soft sound, one that echoed through the condo like a gunshot. Marcellus's had snapped up so fast he nearly dropped his phone. His eyebrows shot up. His mouth fell open just slightly. His eyes darted toward the door, then to me. "Who's coming here at this hour?" he murmured. That flicker of fear, just that split second of panic, was confirmation. If I had doubted anything before, that expression erased all of it. He looked right at me, waiting for me to stand up, to say something, to tell him everything was fine. I didn't move at first. I didn't blink. I kept my face soft and controlled. "Stay seated," I told him, calm as ice. "I'll get it." I rose from the sofa with a slow, steady walk. The walk of someone who already knew what was waiting on the other side of that door. Every step felt heavy, but deliberate. My heart beat steady like a drum in the distance. Hand on the doorknob. Deep breath. I opened the door. And there she was. The young intern. Dressed up. Pretty. Nervous. Holding a small, decorated cupcake, like she was delivering a Valentine gift. Her bright smile froze the instant she saw me. Her face drained of color. Her hands shook. The cupcake tilted. And her whole body stiffened. In that moment, we both knew everything. Every lie. Every message. Every stolen moment. This was the beginning of the end. And I was ready for all of it. The moment I opened that door, time didn't slow down. It stopped. She stood there frozen, like someone had pressed pause on her existence. A petite young woman, face full of makeup, but still holding that childish softness you can't hide at her age. Her tight little dress hugged her body, like she was coming to see a man, not drop off homework. And that tiny cupcake box in her hand, wrapped neatly, carefully, like she thought tonight was going to be some kind of romantic moment between her and my husband. As soon as she saw me standing there, me, the wife, the homeowner, the woman whose name was on the mortgage, her whole expression cracked. Her lips parted, the makeup around her eyes seemed to sink, and her pupils shrank like she'd just witnessed a ghost. She wasn't expecting me. Not tonight. Not ever. Her hand shook so hard the cupcake almost slipped from the box. I didn't speak at first. Didn't move. Didn't blink. I just stared at her with that calm, cold expression, the kind that doesn't need anger to be terrifying. The kind that says, I know exactly who you are. Behind me, I heard Marcellus get up from the sofa. Babe, who is it? Why are you taking so long? Oh, she heard him. I swear she jumped like someone had shot a gun behind her. Her eyes flicked past me, trying to look into the condo, trying to find him. The man she thought would be opening the door and pulling her into his arms. Not tonight. I still didn't say anything. Silence is powerful. Silence makes people drown in their own guilt. She opened her mouth, lips trembling like a little kid caught stealing candy, but nothing came out. Not a single word. Just air. I tilted my head slightly. Still quiet. Still studying her. She looked so damn small. So stupid. So guilty. The perfect little side character in the disaster my husband created. I stepped an inch closer, and she stepped back like I was radiating fire. Then Marcellus's footsteps approached behind me. Who is it, baby? He asked again, voice getting closer. This time, her panic doubled. She looked left, right, down the hallway, anywhere but my face. The cupcake box shook so much I thought she'd drop it. I finally broke the silence. But not with a whisper. Not softly. No, my voice was loud and crystal clear, sharp enough to slice through the whole building. Hello, Connie. I watched her flinch. Are you here to see my husband? Those words hit harder than a slap. Behind me, I heard Marcellus stop his steps entirely. No breathing. No movement. Just shock. This girl, this little intern, trembled like she'd stepped into a nightmare. Her eyes darted everywhere looking for a way out. And when people get scared, they get stupid. I thought. I heard he was sick, she stammered. I was, passing by. So, I brought him a cupcake. Passing by. In a gated condo community with a guard gate, badges, and guest logs? Sure. I didn't correct her. Why ruin a comedy? I leaned against the doorframe and gave her a smile. The kind of smile that's more frightening than any scream. Then gently, politely, like I was hosting a tea party, I said, come inside. No need to run off. She froze. Her eyes widened. She shook her head like a panicked rabbit. But I wasn't asking. If you take one step away, I said, lowering my voice so only she could hear, I'll make sure everyone at your job and your family back home gets every single screenshot. Her face strained. Her knees almost buckled. That's what I thought. I whispered. She walked in like she was entering a courtroom. She knew she'd lose in. I closed the door behind her with a soft click, the kind of click that sounds like a prison lock. And then I turned around. Marcellus was standing in the middle of the living room, frozen mid-step. His face looked like someone had unplugged his brain. Phone still in his hand. Mouth open. Eyes bouncing between me and the young woman like he had no idea how this disaster was unfolding. He looked pathetic. I kept my voice sweet. Dangerously sweet. Connie, I said. Come on in. Have a seat. Since you're already here, I'd love for you to officially meet my husband. I emphasized the word husband like I was slamming a judge's gavel. Marcellus swallowed hard. Connie's legs wobbled. The air felt hot and suffocating. But I kept smiling. After all, the show was just getting started. When we walked into the living room, it felt like every molecule of air in that condo shifted. Gone was the warm, cozy home vibe. Now the space felt like a courtroom, a crime scene, and a battlefield all at once. I motioned for her to sit on the single armchair, the one that sits right across from the big sofa Marcellus usually lounges on like royalty. For once, he wasn't lounging. He was standing there stiff and pale, still holding his phone like he'd forgotten how hands work. Sit, itsadhetiensli. Not kindly, just decisively. She perched on the edge of the chair, knees together, back straight, hands folded so tightly the knuckles turned white. She kept her eyes down, like she was scared if she looked up she'd burst into flames. Then I turned to my husband and pointed at the sofa. You. Seek. He obeyed instantly. No argument. No excuse. Just sat down like a guilty kid in the principal's office. The dynamic was perfect. Her, small, shaking, humiliated. Him, sweating, stunned, trapped. Me, calm, steady in control. Exactly how I planned it. I sat beside him, deliberately close. So close our shoulders touched. So close I could feel his heartbeat going insane through his shirt. Then, without breaking eye contact with the intern, I wrapped my arm around his and laid my head gently on his shoulder. Oh, the way her face twitched. You could practically hear her heart cracking in that silence. But I wasn't done. Not even close. I stood up slowly and headed toward the kitchen. I let them both sit there alone for a moment, drowning in the discomfort. I made extra noise, opening cabinets, clinking plates, running water, just so they knew I was still there, still listening, still in charge. I skipped right past the shelves full of our expensive crystal glasses, the kind we only use for special guests, anniversaries, celebrations. And instead, I reached for the flimsy stack of cheap plastic cups, the ones you'd use for a kid's lemonade stand. I filled one with plain tap water. Then I brewed 2 cups of tea. Not the grocery store kind. No. The good stuff, imported, rich aroma, served in white china mugs with delicate gold rims. A very visible difference. On purpose. When I came back, I set everything down on the glass coffee table. 1 cheap plastic cup of lukewarm tap water. For her. 2 elegant china cups of high-quality tea. For me and my husband. The contrast was loud. Obvious. Humiliating. She stared at that plastic cup like it had personally insulted her ancestors. Her lips tightened. Her face turned red under her makeup. Perfect. I sat next to Marcellus again, leaned in, and lifted my tea with a soft, elegant gesture. Then, with a sweet voice dripping with a message only she would understand, I said, "Hydrate, sweetheart. I'm sure you need it." Her hands shook as she reached for the plastic cup. Marcellus didn't touch anything. Couldn't. He was sweating through his shirt, looking like he wanted to bolt out of the room and vanish into thin air. I gave him a gentle pat on the knee. "Relax, baby," I murmured. "We have company." His eyes widened. He swallowed hard. He sat perfectly still. Then I turned my attention to her, smiling as if this were a casual brunch. "So tell me, Connie," I asked, "how's the internship going? I hope my husband isn't overworking you." The question hit her like a brick. Her voice came out thin and trembling. It's going fine." "That's good," I said, sipping my tea. "You know, he's such a dedicated leader. Very attentive. Very involved." I didn't need to say more. She understood exactly what I meant. Then I slid my fingers up and down Marcellus's arm slowly, a gesture so intimate, so pointed, it sent a ripple of discomfort through both of them. He stiffened beside me like a statue. I smiled wider. "By the way, baby," I said to him sweetly, "we still need to finalize our vacation plans for next month. I'm so excited. St. Lucia is going to be amazing. Beach sunsets, candlelight dinners." Her eyes snapped up, and she saw it. Saw all of it. Saw a future she would never be part of. I kept going. "And the lake house we're looking at in the Blue Ridge Mountains? Ugh, I'm obsessed. You remember how my parents said they'd help us with the renovation? They want us to have a place big enough for our future kids." Future. Kids. Us. Every word was a dagger, and she felt every single one. I watched her throat tighten, watched her blink rapidly to avoid crying, watched her grip that cheap plastic cup as if it could keep her from falling apart. And then, casually, I looked her dead in the eyes and said, "You know, you're young and pretty. I'm sure plenty of guys want to date you. Me? I'm getting older. I've got to hold on to my man so nobody tries to snatch him up, you know? These days, side chicks are everywhere." That last line hit her like a punch straight to the chest. She lowered her head so fast her hair swung forward like a curtain. She didn't say a word, didn't even defend herself. Good. Silence filled the room again, thick and uncomfortable. The AC hummed softly, and even that sound felt too loud. She was melting from shame. He was melting from fear. And I sat there calm, comfortable sipping my tea. Because this wasn't chaos. This wasn't anger. This was strategy. And we hadn't even reached the final act yet. Silence settled over the room like dust. Heavy, uncomfortable, damning. Connie kept her eyes glued to that cheap plastic cup like it held the secret to escaping embarrassment. Her back was stiff, her lips trembling, her fingers gripping the cup so tight the thin rim bent slightly under the pressure. And Marcellus? He had gone stone still. Like if he breathed too loud, the whole world might collapse on top of him. Good. Let it. I leaned a little closer into him, pretending to be affectionate while maintaining the upper hand. My head rested lightly on his shoulder, but my eyes stayed on her. We've just had so much going on. I continued, voice sweet as honey, but sharp as a blade. That's why next month's vacation is so important. We need that break. Don't we, baby? He nodded without a word. He almost whispered yes, but his voice cracked before sound came out. I squeezed his arm gently, almost reassuringly. Almost. Then I turned my attention back to her. Do you like to travel, sweetheart? I'm sure at your age, you're excited about seeing the world. Her eyes flicked upward for half a second, then dropped again. She muttered, "Yes, ma'am." Mum. Mum. Oh, she knew her place now. I smiled politely, as if we were having the most wholesome girl-to-girl chat. That's lovely, really. But traveling with my husband? It hits different. Waking up together on the beach, planning years ahead, building a life. Those are things you can't buy. Or steal. Her shoulders tensed. Her whole body twitched at the word steal. Her nails dug into the cup. Perfect. Then very casually, I shifted the topic. Oh, and a lake house, I said. We're already talking about how it'll be the perfect spot to raise our kids. Fresh air, space to run, a big yard, real family life. I saw it hit her like a truck. Her breath hitched. Her eyes filled. Her chest rose too fast. She tried to hide it, but it was too late. She was breaking. And I wasn't done. I turned to Marcellus again, still clinging to the edge of the sofa, like it was keeping him alive, and I cupped his cheek, forcing him to look at me. "Remember what your mom said?" I asked him. "Next year is perfect for us to start trying." I told her I'm hoping for a boy. He flinched, visibly, because he knew exactly what I was doing. And he also knew it was working. I looked back at her. "Don't you think it's a beautiful plan? Starting a family with the man you've built a life with." Her spoon slipped out of her fingers, clinked against the saucer, echoed through the room like a bell announcing doom. She scrambled to grab it, cheeks flaming with humiliation. I didn't help her. I didn't even blink. Instead, I leaned back and took a slow sip of my tea, savoring the moment. "I'm sure," she whispered, voice trembling. "It will be wonderful." The words nearly choked her. They tasted like pain rolling off her tongue. Now I looked at the one person who hadn't opened his mouth since the circus began. My husband. He stared at his own hands, head down, face pale, drenched in sweat. He looked smaller than I had ever seen him. Not a leader. Not a provider. Not a man. Just a coward sitting in a house he had no right to pretend belonged to him. I decided it was time to apply pressure to both sides. "Baby," I said to him softly, "go grab some apples. For our guest." He looked at me like I had asked him to cut his own arm off. "Go," he repeated. He stood on trembling legs and walked to the kitchen. The slicing sounds that followed were messy, uneven, jagged. He wasn't cutting apples, he was falling apart. When he returned with the plate, the slices were crooked and thick, barely peeled. Nothing like the neat, decorative cuts he used to make when he was trying to impress me. He set the plate down between us. I could feel his hands shaking even from across the table. The air in the room felt like it had turned solid. Every breath was heavy. Every heartbeat loud. Every second stretched into eternity. Connie was still sitting there, frozen, staring at the plate of apple slices, the cheap plastic cup in her trembling hands. She wasn't speaking. She couldn't. Her eyes flicked between me and Marcellus, like she was trying to read a map that no longer existed. Marcellus? He was shaking. Face pale. Eyes wide like a man who finally realizes the storm he's been running from has caught him. I took a slow breath and leaned back, giving them both time to stew in the discomfort. This wasn't about yelling. It wasn't about slamming doors. It was about exposing everything, clearly, calmly, and mercilessly. Then I spoke, and the words cut like knives. "You know, it's funny," I said softly. "You think a simple message can change things. You think a few stolen moments, a few texts, a cupcake, maybe some whispered lies can take him from me." Marcellus swallowed hard, shifting uncomfortably. Connie's lips parted slightly, and I could see the fear building. "You were wrong," I continued. "All of it. Because I know everything. Every text, every meeting, every little lie you thought I wouldn't see." Her face blanched. Her hands gripped the plastic cup, so tightly I thought it might crack. And she realized there was no escape tonight. Not from me. Not from the truth. I turned to Marcellus, my eyes cold, steady, unforgiving. "I even saved your little messages," I said, voice soft but deadly. "You know, just in case someone ever doubted what a terrible husband you've been." His mouth opened. Nothing came out. Good. Silence is louder than any excuse. Then I faced Connie again. "You should have known better," I said, standing slowly, moving closer to her. "Because when you play in someone else's life, someone who built a life with them, it never ends well." Her knees almost buckled. I could see the panic in her eyes. I could feel her shame radiating from her. And Marcellus? He was gripping the edge of the sofa like he could hold himself together if he just touched it hard enough. I took one final, deliberate step forward, holding up my phone. The screenshots. Every message. Every "I miss you" text. Every single lie he thought he got away with. "I think it's time you both understand," I said calmly. "This isn't a game. You've been exposed. And you'll never be part of our life. And you, my husband, well," I let my voice soften, almost tender. "You're going to regret ever thinking you could cheat." Connie's eyes filled with tears. She dropped the plastic cup on the floor with a soft clink. Marcellus' jaw dropped. The room felt smaller now, suffocating them both. "You," I said, pointing at him, "get out of my sight until you learn what respect really means." I turned to Connie and gave her a sad, almost motherly look. "Go home. This isn't your world." She bolted, dropped the cupcake box, ran to the door, almost tripping over herself in panic. The click of the door closing behind her was like a gavel. The final verdict. I looked at Marcellus. He was shaking. I didn't mean," he stammered. "You didn't mean to cheat on me?" I asked, voice calm. "Dangerous. You didn't mean to lie for months? You didn't mean to destroy my trust? That's what you're saying." He opened his mouth. I waited. He shut it again. I walked over to the kitchen, grabbed his phone, and smashed it onto the counter. Screen shattered. Cracks spiderwebbed across the glass, just like the trust he thought he had. "You won't need this anymore," I said, turning back to him, eyes cold as ice. "Not in my house. Not in my life. Not ever." And just like that, the final blow landed. The lies were gone. The deception exposed. The betrayal laid bare. I turned and walked to the bedroom, packed a small bag, and left him sitting there. No words. No fights. Just the sound of my heels clicking down the hallway, leaving him in the ruins he created. I didn't look back, because some people don't deserve a second chance. And some liars need to watch their own world collapse before they understand what they lost. After I left the condo that night, my mind didn't stop racing. Every betrayal, every stolen moment, every lie replayed like a broken record. I knew something had to be done, not just for myself, but to make sure Marcellus and Connie fully understood the magnitude of their actions. The next morning, I met with my friend Jenna, a sharp lawyer and old college friend, at a quiet cafe downtown. She listened as I explained everything. The messages, the lies, the affair, the shameless audacity of both of them. She didn't flinch, didn't gasp, just sipped her coffee, nodding. "Farhan, you have more than enough evidence to ruin both of them," she said. "Emails, screenshots, recordings, everything. And since this affair involves the workplace, I can make sure HR and the CEO know exactly what's going on." I felt a cold thrill in my chest. Finally, they would face consequences beyond just my personal wrath. Over the next few days, I crafted an anonymous email. Not just any email. A detailed, factual, damning report of both Connie's and Marcellus's actions, complete with screenshots, messages, and a timeline. I sent it to the HR department, the CEO, and every relevant department at Marcellus's company. Within 24 hours, chaos erupted. Marcellus got a call from HR. He was suspended immediately. His email account was locked. The entire office knew he'd been caught in an inappropriate relationship with an intern. Connie? She was called in, fired on the spot. No evidence, no references, no second chance. She walked out with nothing but the humiliation she'd earned. I didn't gloat, not out loud, but inside, I was savoring every detail. Marcellus called me later that evening. His voice was panicked, desperate. "Farhan, please. I made a mistake. I'm sorry. I'll do anything." I laughed softly, shaking my head. "Anything?" I asked. "You lost everything because of your lies. And you wonder if you can fix it? It's too late." He pleaded for forgiveness. I reminded him of every lie, every betrayal, every broken promise, every tear he caused me. By the end of the call, he was begging, and I hung up. Weeks later, the divorce papers were signed. Marcellus lost the condo, the house he thought he controlled. Lost his car, his money, his prestige. He was left with nothing but regret, shame, and memories of the life he destroyed. Connie? She moved back home, shamed and humiliated. Everyone at her job knew what she did. Her reputation, irreversibly tarnished. And me? I reclaimed my life. Not just physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. It wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about proving that no one should ever disrespect you, lie to you, or try to replace you without consequences. And if they do, the universe, or at least I, will make sure the truth comes out. By the time everything settled, I had moved into a new apartment. A place that was mine, completely mine. Peaceful, quiet, safe. And most importantly, mine. I focused on work, on friends, on building a life where betrayal had no place. And every day, I reminded myself, I didn't just survive this. I thrived. Because some people spend a lifetime building illusions. And some people, they destroy them. Beautifully, completely, and without hesitation. Months had passed since everything went down, and life finally felt lighter. The heaviness, the anger, the betrayal, all of it had faded into clarity. I didn't carry the bitterness anymore. I carried lessons, strength, and a renewed sense of self-worth. I moved into a new apartment, bright, airy, full of sunlight streaming through wide windows. Every corner reflected me, my taste, my independence. No reminders of the past, no ghosts of lies. Just space to breathe, grow, and thrive. Work became my sanctuary. I poured energy into projects, took on new responsibilities, and discovered skills I didn't know I had. Promotions came faster than I expected. Confidence grew with every challenge I conquered. For the first time in years, I felt proud of myself, Not because of anyone else, but because of what I had endured and overcome. Friends noticed the change. They said I had an aura of calm strength now. Even strangers could sense it. And I realized that the betrayal I thought had broken me had actually rebuilt me, stronger, wiser, and unshakable. I didn't look back. Not once. No regrets. No longing. No guastitears. Sometimes I think about Marcellus and Connie. I imagine them dealing with the consequences of their choices, and I smile, quietly, calmly. Not out of malice, but out of relief that I had reclaimed my power. That I didn't let their deception define me. Life had a strange way of balancing itself. The pain, the humiliation, the heartbreak, all of it led to freedom. I was free from lies, free from fear, free from being someone's secondary choice. And in that freedom, I found joy. Real, lasting joy. So, here's the truth I want anyone watching to remember. You are stronger than betrayal. You are smarter than lies. And no one, not a cheating partner, not a manipulative outsider, can take your life, your dignity, or your peace unless you allow them to. I rebuilt my life, piece by piece, and you can too. Take back your power, trust yourself, and never settle for less than you deserve. And now, if you've been through a story like mine, or if you know someone who needs to hear this, share this video. It might just give them the courage to stand up and reclaim their own life. If you like this video and want to see more stories about real-life drama, betrayal, and empowerment, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for new episodes every week. And don't forget to comment below. I want to hear your thoughts, your experiences, and your own stories of standing strong. Because life is messy, life is unfair. But in the end, strength, clarity, and courage always win.